I may not be able to change the direction of the winds, but I can always adjust my sails to reach my destination. And with that promise, with that iota of trust, I set off on my boat to sail to the destination that I had a faint idea about. As it turned out, I had to adjust my sails many, many times. And in this video, I'm going to share with you some of those adjustments that I made. Most of the people live by a life script, a story that typically pulls them down instead of building them up. And when we live based on such a story, we play small. We spend a lot of time feeling afraid. We do not step into our power. We do not achieve what we really want to achieve. And we often feel unseen, unheard, unvalidated. I lived with one such life script too. And the life script that I lived by was, I'm not an entrepreneur. I had grown up with the idea that I must always be in a well-paid corporate job. Why? Because a job comes with lower risk, whereas a business comes with higher risk. It is true that a business can give you more rewards, but the risks are always yours. And so this was an intricate part of my conditioning. This is how I was conditioned when I was little, and even after I became an adult, I chose to consider this conditioning valid. And after cancer, when I decided to bring changes into my life, I decided that I will walk away from my full-time corporate job to pursue my passion of coaching and storytelling. I decided to become a storytelling coach. But the challenge was, being a storytelling coach would mean becoming an entrepreneur, having my own coaching practice. That would give me the best chance to do what I love doing instead of, again, going and working for someone else. But in my head, in my heart, in my gut, I am not an entrepreneur. And there was this massive, massive conflict that I experienced, and this belief that I am not an entrepreneur would pull me down, and yet I wanted to move forward. And so I decided to rewire this belief that I had about myself, because if I take a close look at this belief, what is this belief? This was part of my conditioning that my parents gave me. And I'm sure they had very good reasons to condition me like they did. And as an adult, because it felt safe, I chose to continue carrying on that conditioning. So I'm taking ownership for this conditioning as well. But if we go back in time to the moment when I was actually born, I didn't come with a label, with a tag that said, she is not an entrepreneur. She's got to be in a corporate job. No, that happened after I arrived here. And so, while it is true that I was limited by my conditioning, it is also true that I had the power to drop those labels, to stop living by that life script. And that's exactly what I did. I am not an entrepreneur is the first story, the first life script that I rewired. And the second life script that was pulling me down was, I've got to do it alone. I grew up as a fiercely independent person, and obviously there's a lot of value in being independent. But if you somehow get this idea that you've got to do everything on your own, you've got to watch your own back, it can really prevent you from taking a big step if the conditions aren't conducive, or if your confidence is low to start with, or if you are going through too many changes, all of them at the same time, like I was. So I was sailing on my boat, the waters felt choppy, the wind blew hard, there was a lot of algae, a lot of plankton that was getting in the way, And there were all these amazing sailors who would go past my little boat who was rocking. And I would look at these guys and think, these guys are so amazing. These guys are just so amazing. They can do it. I can't do it. And that was the third tweak I had to do. Looking at someone else's success and arriving at the idea at a decision or a belief whether I could do something or not. No. From that, I changed it to I am my own biggest competition. And I am my own biggest inspiration. So, I'm not an entrepreneur too. I am an entrepreneur. I have to do it alone had to be rewired into I don't have to do it alone. I have a lot of support. There are lots of people who love me. I can hire help. I don't have to learn everything on my own. I just have to find somebody who knows how to do a particular job well. And I've got to collaborate instead of compete. And the third strong rewiring that I had to do in my own story was looking at all these successful people, successful sailors, and assuming that they were far ahead of me and getting bogged down. Because what I was doing felt too hard and I felt that I wasn't making much progress. And so that had to be tweaked into I am not competing against anyone else. I am my own biggest competition and I am my own biggest inspiration. And as soon as I rewired the story, the life script that I was living with, as soon as I started believing that I was an entrepreneur, as soon as I started believing that there was a lot of help available, I could ask for help, I could barter my services, my skills, or I could hire help, I could do any of these options, but I didn't have to do it alone. And as soon as I started believing that I wasn't really competing against other people, I was competing against myself. What I had to do was to outdo my own performance. My whole mindset, my whole perspective changed. From living with a life script that was actually pulling me down, making me fearful, making me doubtful of what I could do and couldn't do, and making me believe that I wasn't good enough, impacting my worthiness, I transformed into this empowered person who was ready to go as an entrepreneur, who didn't see that she had to carry the burden of this world on her two little shoulders, and somebody who was getting bogged down time and again by the life that she saw other people living. And she didn't even have any idea whether what she saw was the real version or not, but it didn't matter because she wasn't competing against those people anymore. So I had a new story. And when I changed my own inner story, that's when my real story, my life began transforming. And I actually blossomed into an entrepreneur, a speaker, and a coach. And now I help other people do exactly the same. And so I run a program called Rewire Your Story. Exactly this, Rewire Your Story, wherein we dive deep into this disempowering story that people have been living with and rewire it into a new empowering story. And the job of this new empowering story is to build you up instead of pulling you down. Instead of saying, I am not good enough, it tells you, you are good enough. You are good enough. You are worthy because you are. And so this new story works for you and doesn't make you work for the story that you have chosen to believe until now. And it gives you the beliefs that helps you, enables you to move closer to your destination. And so one belief at a time, one life script at a time, one tweak at a time, I progressed on my voyage on these choppy waters. And I will be back soon to share with you what happened next. Until then, stay awesome. I look forward to speak to you again. Bye.